Hey all, welcome to the homestead. Today I am putting together some new planter boxes. We've maxed out everything that we had, so Shauna wanted a couple more, a 2x6 and a 4x4, which I built for her already. But we've also got a homestead event, a vendor event coming up. It's going to be our first one that we go to as a vendor. It's actually, I think it's going to be the first one we ever go to. And got the idea. I mean, Shauna's making some great stuff. I hope we show that in either this video. Sorry about that. My compressor kicked on right a second, so I turned it off. Shauna's been making some great crafts for that, and so has Zipporah. And we're going to be selling some of that. Hopefully, we will include that in this video somewhere or in a separate video that will kind of pair with this one. Or maybe we'll talk about it. We'll probably do a video at the event. Anyway, I digress. I'm putting together more planter boxes because I thought we could maybe see if people want to buy the ones that I've made. Now, last year, the ones I put together, and I'll put some pictures up here so you can see, I used 1x stock to make the frames. I think I did 1x4s, and I used pocket hole joints to frame those up, and they've worked, they've lasted, no problem. But materials costs have changed, as I'm sure so many of you are aware. So looking at what other materials are available and prices, I've decided to go with another fan favorite, I should say personal favorite, and really overlooked type of lumber, 2x3. Now it's usually sold just as a stud, and it's usually just a rough cut, so it's usually in the sheathing, not sheathing, what do they call it? I'm blanking on the term. Anyway, it's with the really kind of crappy lumber. It's used to back, to do small interior walls. I really don't know why they make 2x3 in particular, unless you just need a really thin wall someplace, or need just some other structural help that a 1x can't do, or a 2x4 is overkill for. Anyway, it looks like this. Usually comes as an 8-foot stud, but it's a 2x3. It's just like a 2x4, except it's a 2x3. So it's going to be 1.5 by 2.5 rather than 1.5 by 3.5. Pretty simple. The other thing that I'm doing differently this time, I'll grab a piece that I've already assembled here, is I'm doing, it's not really a half lap, but it's a lap joint on the ends here. I got a dado blade set, and if you don't know what a dado blade set is, watch this. Hi, okay, so a dado blade set. What is a dado blade set? Well, it usually comes in a little case like this. Not always, but a lot of times. This is the one I got from Harbor Freight, and this is how it came. So a dado blade set, it looks like regular saw blades, and there's two of them. These are your outer blades, okay? They go on, obviously, the outside of the arbor. It's called a stack set because, get these shims out of the way. I'll explain the shims in a second. Okay, what you're doing is you're stacking multiple blades. Each one of these blades comes as 1/8 of an inch thick, okay? That's with the kerf included. Usually you have, so this set has four of these ones, and you have one that is a 1/16 of an inch thick, okay? Now the goal with this, and of course each one of the saw blades, the outer ones, is about 1/8 of an inch thick as well. The goal with this is using it, you can stack them, and all stacked together, I was getting about a 3/4 of an inch cut. And it's called a dado, when you're cutting basically a notch out of the wood, whether it's on the face, on the side, doesn't matter. When you're cutting out that notch, it's called a dado. And it's used for all sorts of different jointery, mortise and tenon, basic lap joints and stuff like that. These shims are included because
it helps you to dial in the exact thickness that you want. Now for me, I was doing more material removal than all of these stacked together would do, so I didn't really care about dialing it in very closely. But these shims are in different thicknesses. This one is 0.024 inches, this one's 0.008 inches, and they got them all in different ones. And what you can do is you can stack these shims in between each of these blades, and you just get a little bit more distance between them, and that way you can dial in exactly how thick you want that cut, that dado cut, to be. Dado blade sets aren't terribly expensive. This one at Harbor Freight was, I think, 60 bucks. And they're a good thing to have around. Play around with them, get used to how they work. They're just like a regular saw blade. It's just understand that you're removing a lot more material all at one time, so you're going to want to go a little slower with your cut. You don't want to, certainly don't want it to bind, because that's a lot of teeth on that arbor, on that blade that's going to catch, and it's going to be a pretty good kickback if it catches. So just go slowly, but it helps you to make a lot of material removal, and you can do some really cool things with it. So that's what a dado set joint, that's what a dado saw blade set, stack dado blade set. That's what a dado blade set is. All right,
now you know what a dado blade set is, and how it's set up. And basically it's used to remove a lot of material to make like mortise and tenon, and different types of jointry. All I'm doing is doing what's the equivalent of a half lap. I'm taking half of the material off. We've got a piece here I can show you. Taking half of the material off, the full width of the board, so that I can just butt these up together, and it helps make a really solid joint, especially when you add glue and a couple of screws, and it tends to end up looking a little bit cleaner. Again, you get this nice clean joint here without a lot of exposed fasteners, is the word I'm looking for. So it just kind of like ends up looking pretty for what we're putting together. Again, it is we're going economical, not necessarily pretty. We're trying to make it look as pretty, as economically, and as rapidly, because I want to be able to throw these together, because we want to get dirt in them, and we want to get seeds in them, and we want to get plants growing, right? And that's the goal, that's the objective here. If you want to buy the pretty ones off of, the high cost sites, or even the big box stores, the ones that come with composites, or the ones that are all cedar, or do it. That's your call. I'm showing you guys an alternative that is cost effective, should be able to be within this, if you know how to use a basic saw, screw gun, glue, should be able to put this within your reach to make with the materials at your average big box store. I will say something about the quality of the wood. It's not great. Big box stores aren't. If you're shopping there, you already know this. Again, I'm choosing to sacrifice finished quality product in terms of looks for cost, how quickly I can put them together, and really how long do you expect it to last. The ones I made last year are just fine. They're lasting no problem. Don't need to take them apart, don't need to repair them, don't need to do anything to them. These are untreated pine, so they are going to be susceptible to rot. They are eventually going to give out. Probably 3 or 4 years would be my guess, depending on where you have them, depending on where, how much weathering and how much extremes they're going to be subjected to. What we put inside them is roofing. Here's a cut piece here, but it's this corrugated roofing panel. Cut these, and that goes all on the inside. So the dirt isn't actually in contact with the wood. It's in contact with this metal. There's no toxins or coatings on this metal, so nothing's leaching into the soil and getting anything contaminated that way. So they actually will last quite a while. Cedar tends to be just more expensive. It looks pretty, it smells pretty, and it does last forever, just about. But also think, how long do you need these planter boxes to last? Are you going to move them? Are you going to reconfigure them? And then when they do give out, how cheap is it to replace them? Because not everything lasts forever. In fact, most things don't. So I'm going to, like I said, I've already done a few. Starting this video halfway through, I'm going to get these last couple cut. This video might span a couple days just because weather's threatening to rain, so I may have to shut this down. And I may run out of daylight before I have to do chores and wrap up. But hopefully, one way or another, we'll get it all on video and we'll show you how I put these ones together. And hopefully you can incorporate that into whatever you are doing. So I'm gonna get these cuts going. I made cuts for 2x4s and 1x3s. I'm going to make 2x2s now, a couple of those. And so, yeah, here we go. All right. Okay, so now we've got all those cuts done. That's all the cuts I need for the frame, for the call the styles, and then the cross members. So that's what all of these are, the vertical pieces. All the 2-footers that you saw me cut first, they're the lengthwise ones. So now we're going to use the dado blade set and dado them all so they can go together. I've got it all set up. Like I said, I've been doing this all afternoon, so I'm gonna show you what that looks like, and we'll get all these done. I've got 16 of each to do. Get at it. Creates a lot of dust, so. Okay, so after all that dadoing, here's what we got. We got 1-foot pieces that look like this, 2-foot pieces that look like this, and we're going to assemble them like so. Pretty simple. Okay, so I'm gonna stop for tonight. Before doing the middle, I got all the frames done. So I've got 2x2s, 1x3s, and 2x4s. So all the framing's done. Now I just got to cut the metal that goes inside, attach it, and then actually assemble them, which I will do probably tomorrow for me. For you, it'll be right now. Okay, so here's part 2 of this video. I actually got all of the framing done, and now I'm cutting all of the sheet metal here to fit the frames that I've made. So you can see a couple here that I've already cut for the 2x4s. We're going to be cutting a few more. Just a couple tips when working with this sheet metal. Gloves. Always wear gloves handling it because these edges are sharp and they will get you. Another thing that I like to use is a Carpenter's T-square. Gets you the good measurements on this. And then as you see when I cut this, I always like to use a straight, factory straight edge when I'm taking my measurements. So what I'll do is I'll measure a foot from this direction, and then rather than just move my tape measure over and flip it and measure from this side, you'll see in the video how I do that. Other than that, pretty simple. Then the only thing left to do is the trim around the top, and we'll get to that when I'm done with this. So enjoy. So when I'm cutting, I'm using a angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. I got this one at Harbor Freight, and please don't give me crap about Harbor Freight, all right? It's Harbor Freight, okay? But it's a great battery-powered one, plenty of power, and it gets the job done. You can get a corded one, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. I just found that this was a better purchase for me at this time, especially if I want to have it places where I don't necessarily have the ability to plug in. I like to use my cutting table here is a piece of masonite. It's actually a piece of old siding, but it's masonite backed. The advantage of cutting on that is, one, I can cut right into it and it's not going to hurt it, you know, it's a piece of scrap. Two is it's not going to provide as much resistance. The wheel is going to come up over it, it's going to cut a groove, but you can just keep cutting along it and keep the sheet metal nice and flat while you're doing it. You know, you may smell some burning, but it's not catching fire, it's not doing anything like that. It's just a nice way to keep your sheet metal flat while it's being cut, and you're not worried about the surface element. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay, I know I said always use gloves and work with sheet metal. I don't do so well with gloves and handling the screws that I use to put on here, so I take the gloves off for this part and go ahead and just be very careful. Use regular sheet metal screws, self-tapping. These are the ones that I use. These come in different sizes and different types, but the main purpose here is to be able to go through the sheet metal without having to pre-drill. Just goes right in, and have it long enough that it bites into the wood, not long enough that it goes all the way through the wood. So you can figure that out. Okay, so I've got all the sheet metal on, and now I'm going to start framing them up. I'm going to be using 3.5-inch nails with my nail gun. That's another advantage of using the 2x stock on the frame, is that it can take that longer nail and really draw it together and hold for a good long while, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to get at it. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna get done tonight. The girls got softball game coming up, and I gotta get to it. Gonna try and quickly do chores, at least feed the cow and the piggies, and get to the softball game. So we'll do a part 3, which I'll have to wait to film tomorrow, but you get to fast forward to now. Hey everybody. Sorry, we were pressed for time. The weather kind of wreaked a little havoc with us and put me a little bit behind schedule. I went ahead and finished all the planter boxes for our event coming up on Saturdays. So I'll just talk you through what I did to finish them off here. I just added a little bit of trim up here. For this, normally I would have used 1x3 furring strips, just like I used to use the 1x4 on the frames. I would just use 1x3 or 1x2. In this case, since
the frame material is 2x stock. I use a 3x stock for the frame to make sure that it covers this upper edge of the metal so that it's not sharp. And then it just gives it a nice finished look. Do some nice mitered corners. It just helps the overall. These are cedar. I got to save a little bit. Well, first of all, the Lowe's nearby didn't have any 1x3, so there's that. So I looked around and thought the next best thing, which is picket fence panels. These come as, I got the 6-foot ones. I think they are they're about 5/8 by 5.5 by 6. So in dimensional terms, they are they're less than a 1. Okay, so they're 5/8, so they're closer to a 1/2 inch rather than 3/4 inch. It's right in the middle there, hence 5/8. By 6, so it's essentially like a 1x6. You've got the dog ears on the front, which are the little let's see, do I have a piece nearby that I can show you easily? Over here. So here's a piece left over from my pan. So they have these dog ears on each end, so imagine this is both sides. So if just get rid of that, you can cut it off. In my case, I was able to just miter it off because I was making mitered corners. It probably ended up actually saving me a little bit of money because the picket fence panels were, I think, about the same price as the 1x3 would have been per 8-foot board. Now, granted, these were 6-foot boards, but I got 2 6-foot boards out of each panel. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing projects around the homestead, when you're doing projects, especially working with material, especially dimensional lumber. Think about, can I get a larger size and mill it down to what I need it to be? You know, cut, instead of getting a bunch of 2x4s, although usually 2x4s are cheap enough by themselves. But instead of getting a bunch of 2x4s, you can get some 2x8s and rip them down into 2x4s yourself. Or maybe you don't need exactly 2x4s. Maybe you need 2x3s, in which case you could probably just buy 2x3s. But the point is, see if you can use another material and modify it the way you need it to be and maybe save a little bit of money. Doesn't always work out that way, but if you find yourself in need, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of all invention. So anyway, that concludes this project. We'll see if any of them sell. Hopefully they do, and we will go on to the next project. I'll catch you guys up on what I'm doing with the pool. With the retaining wall there, we got all the trench dug out there, and we're going to start actually building a retaining wall and get that up, and then we're going to be building a hoop house. So lots of things going on. We'll get back on the horse with more regular postings, hopefully, and we'll have video to share of this vendor event on Saturday, Homestead vendor event. It should be fun, should be good. We're excited. The girls have tons of stuff that they're going to be selling that they've all made. We have more product than we even thought we could. So we're excited, and we will see you there. Till next time, God be with you all in all that you do. And remember, keep the faith and keep up the fight.